So I know you guys don't have a car, but you could open up the curtain, wake up early and open up the curtains and do a video in front of some natural light that way. And if you wake up early enough, you could still do a tired cooking show. Of course, I don't know what time the sun rises over there with the mountains, so maybe that wouldn't work. Fantasy life sounds really cool. I keep forgetting to look it up because smartphones have ruined me, but I'll talk about that later. And the fact that I don't have a 3DS, and I probably won't have a 3DS until you guys get a 4DS and give me your old 3DS. I know it won't be called a 4DS. That's a dumb name for it, and I don't know why I said that. But I like games where you have a career, and I know that kind of sounds dumb coming from me because I have a hard time keeping a job, but game careers are different than real careers in the sense that, like, when you are overwhelmed with anxiety, you can just put it down and walk away. And you can't do that with a real job without getting fired. I do want to come back to it later, but walking off the job is kind of seen as, like, leaving on bad terms for some reason. I remember there was this game, I think I was in high school at the time, about living on minimum wage, and I think it was just kind of like a criticism of the living expenses at the time, or maybe it was like early stage protest for minimum wage hike. In this news article where I heard it, they were talking about how it was pretty much impossible to get to the end of the month on minimum wage. And I was like, well, let's just see about that. So I started playing the game. They have you make these tough decisions. They might be seen as tough decisions. Like, do you want to live in the city or the suburbs? It's cheaper to live in the suburbs, but you have to pay for gas for a car. But then they say you have to leave all your friends behind in the city. And I'm like, I don't know what it's like to have friends. That's an easy decision. Or like you go to the grocery store and it's like, well, you can only really afford to eat if you buy peanut butter and bread and skip out on the avocado. And like the whole thing kind of had this feeling of like those money saving guides that you see online sometimes where they're like, well, to save money, stop eating out 5 days a week. And it's like, I haven't eaten out for 3 months. Or they ask you, like, do you want to go to your friend's birthday party? It's going to set you back $30, $50. And I'm thinking, going to a birthday party is a socially stressful situation. And even if it was free, I would probably skip out on it. And then, of course, later your car breaks down and you need money to fix it, which is okay because you didn't go to the birthday party. I did get to the end of the month, actually. But the game does this snarky little thing where it's like, oh, good job getting to the end of the month, but you don't have $600 to pay rent for the next month. The thing I don't think it considered is the fact that I did have $600. I had like $1,000 in my account. And it was just like, I don't think a poor person made this game because you make a game about being poor and you pitch it to a poor person and it's like, this should be a challenge to you, but it's not. It's not like some sort of fantasy. It's like what happened yesterday, you know? Like, obviously you're going to make the decisions that cost the least amount of money because you are used to not having money. Anyway, Mischief Makers was definitely Blockbuster. I remember that much. And I'd like to think that if you had beaten the game, then there would have been this, like, you beat the final boss and maybe there's like this big resolution where all the sad-faced block people, or sad block-faced people, turn into happy block. They turn happy. And maybe those characters that you hurt were actually like plants or dresser drawers or something like really inconsequential. I know I could just go on YouTube and find out, but I feel like that's cheating because I didn't do the work to get there. The thing about video games that makes them fun is that they're a challenge, and if you take that away, it's just kind of like a sandbox mode. I remember, I think it was back in Clear Meadows, when I had Escape from Monkey Island for the PC. Our computer didn't meet the system requirements to play the game, but I got it to work anyway somehow. Except all of the textures were broken. And it wasn't like broken textures, it was like white 3D models in white 3D environments on a white background. And sometimes you could see the outline or the shading, but it wasn't very consistent. And the other thing is, it would crash about 5 minutes into playing. And I got the version of this game with the player's guide in it. And so I thought, like, if I want to experience this game at all, I can't waste time trying to figure things out on my own. I've got to just follow this walkthrough step by step. We had the missionaries over for dinner one night, and I was playing this game before dinner, and one of the elders said to me, like, oh, that's not really fun, you're not really experiencing the game. And I was like, yeah, he's right, like, I'm just trying to watch a movie, but I'm not even really watching it. It's kind of like, it was some weird hybrid between like watching a movie and reading a book, because you had to use a lot of imagination still. But that stuck with me, like, I never finished that game, and it came out for PlayStation 2 later, but I didn't even get it right away, and then when I did get it, I don't think I've beaten it still. But I think that's mostly because you can't play a point-and-click adventure with a controller. It doesn't translate very well. But I still will use a guide if I get stuck. You know, if I get stuck, and I try to only read as much as I need and not read too much. Or like, if I beat a game and it's like, well, good job, you got 60%, but I paid for the full game. So I'm going to try and get that last 40%, and I very rarely get like 100%. The Lego games make it pretty achievable. It's not too difficult there. But I do look up guides when I'm playing back through. Like, I'm not going to try and start from the beginning and make different choices. Because if I started over and I just made different choices trying to get a different ending or some other bonus, I might get to the end of that game and it's like, well, you had 60 before, and now you have 65. And it's like, the increase would get smaller and smaller each time you play through. So it's like, I'm just going to do the best I can and use a guide for the rest. There's no shame in that. But Harvest Moon is a game where I can't play without a guide. I mean, the first time I played Harvest Moon, I didn't know that you could marry other bachelorettes. I don't know if it was just decisions I made that seemed inconsequential, or if the game just kind of by default leads you to Anne, but I thought that was just part of the game, you had to marry Anne. And then after I beat it, I found out you could marry others, and I was like, well, I'm gonna play again. And I don't think I married Potpourri the second time. I think I went for somebody who ran a bar? Is there a character like that in the first Harvest Moon? I want to say Karen. Maybe. But now, sometimes I'll look up a guide before I even buy the game. Like, okay, just to see, like, the bachelorettes. But in a game that's all about time management, I feel like it would be a huge waste of time, a huge waste of this resource, to go around town and find out where this person is every hour of the day, you know, and feed them every item in the game till you find out exactly what they like and dislike and what's their favorite. And at that point you've fed them like rocks and sticks and weeds, and they probably don't like you very much. And it's like you're compiling a list of information that like somebody's already done and put on the internet. It's not just that, because I'm sure it's like they just look at the code, or maybe Nintendo releases this information. I don't know. And I think that really gave me the wrong idea about the real world, where you can go and look up somebody's likes and dislikes and find out where they're going to be at any point in the week or day. But it wouldn't be the first time I've had the wrong idea about, I mean, not having friends makes it tough. Like, if you don't make friends when you're a kid, it's hard to make friends as an adult, and even harder to have a romantic relationship. And you know, like, the only thing I had to go off of was anime, where they've got these confession scenes. You get the person alone and then you say, I love you, and that's supposed to express your romantic interest in them and a desire to start dating, right? But I found out later that it doesn't quite translate that well, and what they're saying when they're confessing is, I like you. And then later, after they've been dating, they say, I love you, and that takes it to the next level. So that led to some awkwardness in my life. I wouldn't say that the differences between Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley are cultural differences, especially since you're saying, like, everyone's a jerk and they warm up to you later. That's kind of a Japanese thing, like, tsundere, I think it is. But the fact that all of them are like that might be the fact that it's an indie game and it's a smaller studio, and if you've got, like, one guy in charge instead of, like, a team of people who do lots of research on this kind of stuff, and he says, you know, I like things a certain way. I mean, especially when it comes to like romantic preferences, it's hard to see why other people wouldn't like the same things you like. Or it might be a generational thing. I'm hesitant to use the word millennials because that offends a lot of millennials. I guess I did it anyway. But people might just be ruder in 2018. What else? Harvest Moon DS, you couldn't be a girl in, and I only remember that because shortly after that came out, Harvest Moon DS Cute came out, where you could only be a girl. And I think there was an old, like, original Game Boy Harvest Moon where you had to be a girl too, or you could choose between the two. I don't know. It's been a while. But oh yeah, Pokemon Snap. That was like the best game. And like, maybe I didn't feel it at the time that the Nintendo 64 was out. I didn't care about the GameCube because we didn't have a GameCube. But when the Wii came out, there was this guy that did some head tracking experiments where he put the sensor bar on like a baseball cap, and he put the controller on top of the TV, and he demoed this like head tracking software where he's like moving around the room, and the screen made it look like he was moving around an environment, like going around obstacles and stuff and crouching down and stuff. And I thought like that would be perfect for a Pokemon Snap sequel. But then, of course, Nintendo never did anything with that. And then the Wii U came out, and they have the gamepad that is a screen, and I thought, like, that's also perfect. You could use it as a camera in a pseudo VR experience and take pictures, right? And they never did that. And so now the Switch is out, and they've announced the Nintendo Labo, which they've got this robot kit, I think, where it looks like the system mounts in like a helmet for like a VR experience. And then there's like, you have like a backpack, and there's like a series of pulleys and levers that translate your arm and leg movements into controls in the game. And I thought that would be perfect for Pokemon Snap 2. Pokemon Snap 2 also. But another thing to consider is that it wouldn't just be a sequel to Pokemon Snap. It wouldn't just be like, go take pictures of 151 Pokemon. It would be like, listen, we've got over 1,000 Pokemon, and there's no way you're gonna take pictures of them all because half of them just look like scenery. So you probably won't tell that they're Pokemon unless you're pretty devoted to the series. You kind of have to get in at the beginning and not be put off by the fact that there are Pokemon that are ice cream and dresser drawers. I'm just guessing. Maybe there are dresser drawer Pokemon.
Get your free Nintendo Switches here.
Oh, thank you, Kellen. Thanks for giving away our Nintendo Switch. Okay, I'm almost done. What else was I gonna say? Oh, it's taken so long because I wasn't happy with the way I shot it the first time, and I probably won't be happy with the way this turns out, but I've just gotta do it, you know? It's kind of like, I think it was you I was talking to about Lunar Balloon, the webcomic. He puts out these comics, everyone loves them, they've got these sweet messages. He's not a great artist. Not that he's the worst, but he's not particularly good. But he's doing it anyway, and he doesn't care. And that's what I need to do. And that's what we need to do. We need to not care. Where's my notes? I think that's everything. Oh, you said something about you play Pokemon until you get Vulpix and then you quit. But the whole point of the game is to capture your favorite Pokemon and assert your dominance over all of the other Pokemon and trainers in the game. To prove that you're right about it being the best monster. So you really need to go back and play those the right way.
A fact.
I still don't know how to end a video, so... What's the other one I sing? That's it, it split, it won't recover, just frame the halves and call them brothers. Find your fathers and your mothers, if you remember who they are. Started too low. That's it, it split, it won't recover. Just frame the halves and call them brothers. Find your fathers and your mothers, if you remember who they are. Over and over they call us their friends. Can't we find something else to pretend? Like nobody's won and we're safe at the end. In the darkness, the film machine's spinning, so let's leave it on. We'll be out in the street before anyone knows that we're gone. Am I good at this?
I don't think that. I don't.
You don't think so?